is changing. Gone are the days when the bigger army would win. It's now about being the smarter army. Not just human smart, but machine smart. Bots are sifting through battlefield pictures, picking targets for drones, and sabotaging enemy infrastructure. It is the gunpowder of our age. If deployed right, AI can level the battlefield for smaller countries. But in the wrong hands, it's a new weapon of mass destruction. An unknown entity with great power. As world leaders grapple with this new challenge,
the impact of artificial intelligence,
we look at the questions that matter. Who is winning the AI race? Should AI have a place in the battlefield? And who takes the blame for a bot gone rogue? Joining us now is Dr. Olexander Scherba. Dr. Olexander Scherba is the Ambassador at Large, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ukraine. He's been a career diplomat for nearly 3 decades who has spent years working on Ukrainian-European relations. Yasuhide Nakayama is the former State Minister of Defense for Japan. He has previously served as the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs as well. Dr. Tariq is a professor and department head at the Indian Institute of Technology, Rookee. He has extensively contributed towards the indigenous growth of defense and nuclear technology. Dr. Bassant Hassib is associated with the Strategic Technologies and Cybersecurity program at the Middle East Institute. Her areas of expertise include cybersecurity governance in Egypt and the GCC, counter-surveillance, gendered cybersecurity threats, among many others. And moderating this session is Chandra R. Srikanth. She's the Deputy Executive Editor at Moneycontrol. She specializes in tech, startups, and new economy.
Good evening, everyone. This is such an exciting topic because AI has gone beyond things like ChatGPT and asking, ChatGPT to write a poem. It's gone beyond that. The uses in AI, particularly in the battlefield, is something that we will be discussing over the course of the session, and also the guardrails that we need. I'm going to start here. We saw the video there on the use of AI in the battlefield. Perhaps we will have an automated robot or a tanker that's doing the killing, not to mention the uses of propaganda and deep fakes and the havoc this could wreak in terms of cybersecurity. Give us your own perspective. Are you already seeing this happening in some way, particularly the use of propaganda, how narratives are built using AI and technology?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event. It's marvelous. For me, it's the first time to be in India and a first time in many, many months to see my family who is outside of Ukraine. So I'm extremely thankful for inviting me to speak. About the question that you asked, in the last couple of weeks were very, very, illustrative on how important the AI is for this. Actually, this is a war that is in essence very close to World War II. In visuals, it is very, very close to World War I. But it is really AI-powered in many, many ways. Yesterday, Ukraine shot down one of the very precious Russian reconnaissance planes, A-50. So altogether, there are only 7 of those in Russia. So it's so-called Russian AVAX planes, without which these almost daily shellings of Ukrainian cities would be probably much less coordinated than they are right now. Over the last couple of days, Ukraine shot down altogether 5 Russian aircraft. I'm absolutely sure, and Ukrainian ambassador who used to be Deputy Minister of Defense of Ukraine until now, who is present today probably, will correct me if I'm wrong. It wouldn't be possible without usage of AI on a daily basis. But
when you say AI-powered war,
yeah.
in what way?
For instance, a week ago, Ukraine twice hit big groups of Russian military who were lined up waiting for a general to greet him. The general didn't arrive, but all of a sudden a very precise American-made HIMARS missile did. That's why that moved me to to understanding that in a way it's a war of artificial intelligence versus natural stupidity. Quite frankly, how stupid do you have to be to do things like that, like gathering such big groups of soldiers, And we know what's happening on the ground. We know who does what on the ground because of modern technologies, because of AI. Russia fights big, we fight smart. This is our the big lesson, and this is our strength in this war. So I hope this would be the bridge ahead for us to really win this war against the world's second biggest army.
Right. Professor, he made an important point about how Ukraine's already fighting an AI-powered war and the usage of technology. Will we reach a point where we will trust a drone to perhaps kill a human being? What kind of ramifications is this going to have? Because if it's a mission gone wrong, who will be accountable?
I think a very good question, actually. The thing is that whenever we take the AI into picture for the autonomous weapon, basically there are three aspects. That is the simulation, and then the target identification, and then basically the robotics. It is the integration of three things. The one is that is related with the software. That is the coding aspect, how we run it. And the second is related with the target identification. As you rightly pointed out that it can go on astray basically, because the signal it picks that from the target, that is very important, and that can be manipulated, and it poses a greater dilemma. It is something like that we are just at the onset of this technology that is sweeping like anything. And the advantage here is that is the disadvantage also, that it is very crispy, very micro, and it does not require that kind of warfare that is in the conventional airplane or something like that. It is a very miniaturized version of the drones or something of that sort, and that can be controlled by the softwares. And the difficulty here is that it can be autonomous weapon also. Once there are two possibilities. It can target the real thing also, and it can target it can be modified or it can be manipulated also to target the other thing. So we are in the era basically once we remember that biologically the cloning started. Then the society or the country, they started thinking about there is a need for regulation. How to deal that biological advancement, it should not act as a Frankenstein. So similarly here we are just at the onset of that era. It is the high time there is no regulation in the market across the globe level. So it is high time we have to regulate it, because once the AI or the drone, as you said, it is used for targeting some military asset or some military person or person at the warfare, it can be also used to target the civilians also, those who are unarmed.
Right.
So that is none of their fault, or it can go astray, it can target the other person also. So who will be the responsible person? And how we are going to deal that. And the other thing is that it is related with the networking, and through the internet it is being controlled. So the other thing is that that signal can be trapped, just like the hacking of the software or the sites. Some other people hacks, and for that it does not require big asset. As
Right.
I said, the infrastructure, the robotics and all that. And few peoples, those who are very master in software and coding and understand the things, they can utilize that asset which is developed by the others against their own masters who are controlling that one.
Right.
I think that is the thing.
Right. Bassant, over to you, which brings me to my next question. Do we perhaps need, I don't know, a new global convention on how AI should be used in war? Because the usage of computers in war and military technologies is not new. I think during the Second World War at Bletchley Park, you know, the UK used coding to kind of get ahead in the Second World War, and the US too has used a supercomputer at the height of the Cold War. But do we need new rules, new safeguards? Because, you know, this could have multiple layers of impact. One is the propaganda angle, where you create deep fakes on what kind of messaging is going out, and then on the, you know, battlefield itself, on how you position drones. Perhaps, you know, you're going to have automated tankers running amok. What do you think needs to be done from a safeguards perspective?
Okay, when we talk about an international oversight or a legal or regulating AI in the military sector, we first need to put it in perspective or in the context of the risks that the usage of AI in the military sector poses. So here, before I talk about regulation, I have to mention two main risks. We have the AI-powered weapons. They pose a risk that is ethical and humanitarian in relation to civilian casualties that's stemming from delegating decision-making to the machine. This is first. And the second, it stems from the lack of consensus regarding a regulatory framework internationally on how we can apply international humanitarian laws to the usage of autonomous weapon systems in conflict, in armed conflict. And here there is the second point, which is a major risk, which is the military application of artificial intelligence actually poses or is subject to cybersecurity risks through data algorithmic manipulation, cyber attacks, or espionage, given the many states are now, they depend on foreign AI expertise and techniques. So with regard to the first risk that I mentioned, the humanitarian risk, it is concerning that the humans, they develop machines based on artificial intelligence in which they delegate decision-making to them and the legal responsibility to them. And now we have drones or killer robots that are capable of executing entire missions on themselves independent from human decision-making. And this is concerning when it comes to killing human lives. Okay?
Right.
And this actually takes us to the question of the legal or institutional oversight over the use of artificial intelligence or autonomous weapon system. There, as Professor Tariq mentioned, there is a lack of consensus regarding placing the autonomous weapon systems in the existing international humanitarian laws that are governing the use of force. Okay, and because the principles of international humanitarian laws, they set high criteria to which is going to be very difficult to assess in relation to the usage of artificial intelligence. So it's highly unlikely to place any limitations on their usage. Why? Because basically when we use them, they are going to be in violation or the risk of violating the main principles of international laws, mainly the principle of distinction, proportionality, and accordingly the principles of accountability. When we use or deploy autonomous weapon system, we need to look at how the military advantage, okay, is weighted against collateral damage. Yes, arguably the usage of artificial intelligence and using autonomous weapon systems should be more precise and should reduce damage. However, the fact that there are instances where there is collateral damage in the result of the usage of artificial intelligence shows that the machines, in some cases, they are not capable of having or grasping contextual shifts, okay, in the same way the humans do.
Right.
And therefore, they are not capable sometimes in making a distinction between a civilian, a combatant, or a military object.
Right.
And therefore, and this takes us to the accountability part, which is when you deploy or when you delegate decisions to a machine, it's going to be very hard to hold a responsibility or accountability to a human decision making because they are away from or distant from where the decision was taken.
Right. I want to get your thoughts on one other important aspect of the future of defense and war, and that has to do with chips, semiconductor chips. One significant news development in the last week is TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation, which basically supplies half the world's chips. They've built a big manufacturing plant in China because of the escalating tensions between, China and Taiwan. And the world is worried because Taiwan is the source of chips for half of the world. And TSMC counts Apple, Nvidia as some of its biggest clients. So again, what role are chips going to play, advanced tech chips, in this role? And, what will this mean, the escalating tensions between China and Taiwan? Because China is also very hungry for chips. In fact, I read a report that said China is perhaps spending more on importing chips than oil. So if they wrest control, or God forbid, if they manage to invade, then the world's biggest source of chips is going to be with China.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to say something before I make comment. I learned English by myself from Hollywood movies called Beverly Hills Cop 1. So my English skill is not so good.
A round of applause for that. You speak
but,
very good English.
I do my best effort, so thank you very much. Without
I wish we could learn Japanese the same way, but it's a very difficult language.
Without the cunning paper. Okay. So my AI is going to answer your question. Okay. So first of all, I think don't you think Ukraine is very, lost lots of lives and lose their homes? So I pray condolences to the Ukraine people, of course. And also Israeli former prime minister is here. And October 7th, never forget the terrorist attack, Hamas attack, innocent citizens in Israel. And you think this is also pray for their soul and safely back the soldiers to their home, and kidnapped adoptees have to go to home. We pray. Remind Hong Kong. Remembering Hong Kong? When Hong Kong was, unification, every leaders of the world, democratic nations, everybody said, protect Hong Kong, protect Hong Kong. But the result, what the result? The Hong Kong is already one politics, one Communist Party control. There is no more democracy. After the pandemic, what you have learned, what we have learned, we are actually already inside of the World War III. Ukraine situation, Israeli situation is not only them. It's our situation. China, as Dr. De Carlos, sounds like communist from Cuba, but the democratist from the Philippines, the De Carlos said the right thing. I really agree, because of the neighbor of the Taiwan. Taiwan and Okinawa prefecture of Japan is only 140 kilometer distance. Very close. If once Chinese PLA attack Taiwan, we, the country, is going to crazy. And also, the Middle East people delivering the oil to our country, 90% of oil through Bassant Strait, which is Taiwan Strait. 60% of gas from Indonesia or South, East, West Asia. 60% coming through the Taiwan. The economy, which your profession is also getting to the crazy price. So how we can manage? How we can control the chips, not the potato chips, but the chips. This is also the important, because it affects to all the world nations. So, and also one more I'd like to add, Dr. De Carlos. What I'd like to add is China is not isolated. China has a new axis of evil countries called Russia, called Iran, called North Korea, and China. So they have a friend. They are collaborating. We didn't speak about the satellite issue, but if the US satellite, you count the satellite at night, the beautiful sky, China-Russia collaboration, beat democratic-sized satellite numbers. So how are we going to manage and manage the supply chain of those democratic nations' power getting to become unite? This is the most important thing as a Japanese former State Minister of Defense thinking right now. If I'm Prime Minister in the future, I will prepare for all the new axis of evil countries. We have to think more deeply. Otherwise, there is no peace. Peace, there is a word. Ghost, always the word is over there. But nobody grabbed the peace and ghost. But peace is not for the losers. Peace, the word, is only for the winners.
That's a great point.
Thank you.
I want to get your thoughts, Professor. India is still not there when it comes to making chips, but chip is the new oil or gold or whatever you want to call it. NVIDIA this week became the most valued company. People called it the hottest stock. Where is India when it comes to the global race for chips?
You rightly pointed out that India is not started that journey in the chips manufacturing, basically. And presently, the government thrust is on this direction. Already, people have started collaborating, and we are working for that we should develop the indigenous chips. Basically, that is the hardcore technology, so that we can implant our own instruction indigenously, so that there should not be any control from the outside. That is number one.
Pentagon, in fact, this week is talking about using AI models.
Exactly. The other thing is that although in the chips manufacturing field, we are lacking basically. We are lagging, I can say. We are just starting our journey. But the other aspect, as I said, is the simulation. Regarding the control through the softwares, basically, India has an advantage there. And advantage in terms of human resource, we have a very strong manpower support. Those who can deal with coding and deal with the software manufacturing, how to control that drones or how to control that is through soft skill basically. From that perspective, we have the edge. The other thing is that in this journey of the AI, basically, it is just started, basically, in a decade or something back. And right now, we have all that kind of manpower. We can go in that direction so that we can be a leader in that way. We can design the software, we can design the coding, how to control that one. That is number one. But the other thing is that the difficulty regarding with the hardware aspect is that we know there are multiple kind of autonomous weapons. It is not like that a single plane or something like that. It can be at the same time, it can be hundreds of the drones attack, and dealing each as an independent target, that is a very difficult thing. So from that perspective, it has to be dealt in a manner that through the software control itself, where the source from it is getting the signal, that can be hacked or that can be disrupted, then the whole lot of the bunch of the drones that can be stopped. That is the thing. And the other aspect, what I feel that the difficulty in terms of the Frankenstein aspect, I can say that if we will too much empower or too much depends upon the AI, so I am foreseeing that also it can be whatsoever we see in the movies, it is not very far. That the AI started thinking itself and they can manipulate, they can design it, and it might be possible they can again attack the perpetrator itself.
Artificial general intelligence, as they say,
so
where they begin
that
to
is also,
reason
that's why
and
I
make
always
decisions.
talk, the regulation is a very important aspect. We have to foresee all these things, and at this stage itself, the major players, major countries should sit together and they should regularize it, what should be done, what should be legal, where we can go up to what extent, where is the boundaries. These things we have to deal with.
Right. Two interesting things that happened from a tech perspective in the Ukraine-Russia war. One was how Elon Musk's Starlink actually helped Ukraine with internet connectivity first, and I think then it he refused to allow it to launch a surprise attack on Russian forces in Crimea. Then you also had Apple and Microsoft who severed ties with Russia. Now, this raised multiple questions on whether the world is too dependent on US companies for advanced tech. The only other alternative is China. So, is there scope here for a third power? You know, what role can India play? Because there's a large pool of technology talent, there's a large pool of chip designers. So what role can India play when it comes to building advanced tech in defense?
Thank you for mentioning Elon Musk. I'm very active on Twitter. And quite frankly, in the beginning of the war, Elon Musk was an inspiration, was a hugely positive factor. When he tweeted, I am hugely pro-Ukraine and Starlinks being already sent your direction. That was just the shot in the arm that we needed. And indeed, Starlink was huge, big influence in the first stage of the war. Still is. Unfortunately, Russians have access to Starlink as well right now too. But I'm a specialist not only on artificial intelligence, but also on natural stupidity. Therefore, and this is where Elon Musk unfortunately has to be mentioned too. Because just 3 weeks ago, there was this huge news about Germans discovering some huge bot farms on Twitter that were trying to influence via AI, to influence the German domestic politics. And I had a lengthy conversation with German diplomats who discovered that. And I looked at this information war. That hasn't been discovered and hasn't been declared, but is being conducted through these new technologies. My God, they do sound human already, these bots and these trolls. It does, these texts, their tweets, they do read human. And unfortunately, they look robotic still, because when someone who follows nobody and who is followed by 2 people gets 5,000 retweets, people understand something is fishy there. But here is another sphere where AI is being weaponized and being used as a weapon. And here is where India can play a positive role, because India has the brain. India has the intellect, and here India has this long tradition of doing the right moral choices. India has this moral compass. And quite frankly, earlier during this conference, when we saw this video of your Prime Minister hugging a certain man from the Kremlin, who I don't want to mention here, and about India trying to walk this delicate diplomatic line between America and Russia. You know, some choices are not geopolitical, some choices are moral. We used to be a crown jewel of someone's empire too. And the difference between you, India, and us is that your empire came to its senses, whereas our empire went batshit crazy. And they are dragging us back into their new Russian empire. So we need you, India, with us. We need you, India, to make the right moral choice. Don't just walk the delicate diplomatic line. You need to take a side here, and I hope you will do the right thing. Thank you.
Well, there are different ways in which India is helping Ukraine. It can't just be on one thing, but I think that's a discussion for a different day. But, you know, I want to get your view on one other aspect that the professor and everyone has been talking about, which is a global consensus on regulating AI, or even talking about how AI can be used in war. Now, there are so many differences between the global north and the global south. Can there ever be a consensus on this? I mean, even the positions that these countries take in wars are so different. So how are we going to achieve that consensus on how to use or not use AI? And I remember Sam Altman came up with an interesting point. He said, you know, just like how we have an International Atomic Energy Agency, we should have one agency to track how compute resources are used in the world.
That's very difficult to happen, I would say. It's very difficult to reach a consensus regarding the use of AI. It's very difficult to regulate AI. And at the same time, it's difficult to completely ban or restrict their usage. Okay? As I mentioned, there are several constraints when it comes to the use of AI in order to be regulated and in a matter that it's going to be applicable, or we can place it in the existing international regime that we have for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. It would be in violation of all the principles that they are going to put in place. And here states, they have an option, which is they need to start working on steering an international or regional framework where they can govern the use of autonomous weapons system, where they can find a way or explore a way of how to place them within the existing international regime. And this is going to be difficult because of the very strong commercial, security, and geostrategic incentives underpinning the industry itself of artificial intelligence and the autonomous weapons system in their usage, in their delivery, okay, and in the sale itself. So restraining it or banning it is going to be very difficult. So I don't see this is happening because a lot of states, they are benefiting from leaving it without a regulation, okay? Because if you regulate it, basically you will ban it. And at the same time, it's beneficial. And it has a commercial incentive for companies, and it has a security incentive for states. Now there is the utilization of the autonomous weapons system by non-state actors actually poses a huge threat to states, which actually makes them want to invest more in advancing their military technology and in acquiring drones, regardless of the collateral damage that's going to have. Yes, there are risks, and huge ethical risks, as I mentioned earlier, the civilian casualties, but at the end of the day, I don't see a regulation coming, unfortunately.
Right. We have just 50 seconds, so final thoughts from you, Yasu, and the professor on, should every country have its own sovereign AI model for defense? Will that help? Should every country invest more in AI in defense? Will that help?
Yes, of course. Not just attacking, but for protection. And also, without AI capability, I think we cannot fight the 21st century warfare. On the other hand, there is no more room called neutral. There is only autocracy and democracy. And the third World War should choose which side you are in. So this is very important. And I also belong to executive board of Boston Global Forum. So please see the homepage because of the time running out. Sorry. Okay. Arigato. My opinion there. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes.
I will just like to add that the best part is that as a India, we have the real intelligence rather than the artificial intelligence. And that can control, manipulate, and do everything. That is the best part for India.
Right. On that note, thank you very much for your insights, and thank you for being a great audience. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our panelists. May I just request you to stay here for a second? We're going to honor each of our panelists with a memento.